Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
you get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
That was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your country.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
This is Live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak. Howdy, folks. Charlie Bolak here, founder of Swing Away Golf Club and host of the Clubhouse Podcast. We appreciate you joining us. We got a great show today. It's all about leveling up. We're going to connect it to all three phases. We'll be right back. Stick around.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
Welcome back. Thanks for sticking around. Everybody says they want to level up in life. Everybody says it looks great from here. The grass is always greener type thing, but you're just switching one set of problems for another. Once you upgrade, in fact, you get more problems, but what helps you out and what prepares you for it is you've learned and adapted and figured out how to manage the set of current problems, because you can't get rid of everything. You can minimize some, you can master some. There's still problems, issues, there's still something you have to manage. You have to think about that. Some of your bandwidth goes to managing these items. So once you've gotten good enough there and you're ready for that level up, let's talk about what happens next. You're waiting for your kids to get older, but that just changes. You might not be changing diapers, but you're staying up and watching Ring cameras and setting alarms and making sure they're not sneaking out of the house. I was good at that one, by the way. There's just so many different things going on in today's world. Let's dive in. Let's talk about it. All right, getting into it. Today's theme, leveling up. We're going to hit it three ways. We're going to talk about business, climbing the ladder from sales to management. That was kind of a reference point I can draw on from my career, but please, we can translate it to any kind of career as we're talking through this. So take my outline of what you hear and don't follow it as gold, but follow how to apply it to your life. And let's talk about how it affects business, climbing the ladder, parenting, break points. With three young boys, I know I'm coming up on a break point when I get my youngest out of diaper, and then I think I'll get a little bit back when they can feed themselves and as they become more independent adults. But again, as we talked about earlier, that's just going to bring another set of challenges. Now that I've mastered these, maybe not mastered, let me stop right there. Now that we've learned how to manage these challenges, we're ready for a new set, right? It's going to bring it up. And then golf, right? My personal journey right now is, as I'm aging, my swing speed is slowing down a little bit. I'm mid-40s, so enough that I'm within sight of the senior tour. So it changes your perspective on things. It changes how you deal with things, and it changes your golf equipment. So let's talk about how we can do that without chasing fixes that don't work or breaking the bank. Stick around. All right, folks, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking around. If you made it this long, you notice change of outfit here. Shirt's gone. Everything seems a little bit different. It's the next day. So as I was trying to wrap up the segment on golf leveling up, I think we'd gotten to equipment. A guy walked in that a really good guy, one of our first. In fact, I think he was our first corporate member, and really great guy. We appreciate him here, and so we talked for about an hour, and just the day had progressed to the point to where I couldn't get back into it. But I was talking with Anna last night. It was one of the rare nights where we actually had time to sit around for, I don't know, probably 30 minutes. Both of us were exhausted, but enough was done that we were able to get in bed. So we just wanted to catch up for a few minutes, and we were talking about kind of the show and our days. And we got into it. I said, just what a great topic it was, and how, it relates to everything we've got going on right now with, the business, moving house, consolidating by getting rid of some toys and things to make this move for the house. And leveling up is just something that it's a natural progression in life for those who want it, but it's not for everybody, right? It's not everybody wants that next level of house, that next level of car, that next level of bag. And I was talking to Chase. He's like me. He's kind of, we're very driven people. We're willing to put in the work. We know what it's going to take. We're discussing, the difference in the type of guys that we feel like we are versus, the people that have found their happy place. And not that we're not happy. So this is something that he and I, laid out and went very in depth in. And I so wish he would have let me record it, or we would have been sitting here. We were actually sitting at a table right over there. And it's a hard truth. There's just some people that are willing to work more to get more. And it's funny, he and I at this point look at it as kind of a character flaw in ourselves that were relatively materialistic people, or materialistic enough to. Anna's getting pretty close these days. I'd put myself at a 60 here, and easily another 25, 30 around the house. So I don't know where that 80-hour figure comes from, but the people who want these things that are willing to put in the work are the ones who are going to get to level up, and the ones that sit around thinking that it's going to come to them, man. I mean, it's just a hard truth. I'm sorry, it's not going to. Some people will buy a lottery ticket and win, and if that's you, great. That's awesome. I still buy my tickets. I still convince myself I'm going to win every time. But at this point, at 45 years old, I realize that half my chance of winning it is gone already anyway. So it keeps it in perspective for me, even though, I did the same thing with Swingaway. We said a couple shows ago, I think it was the time management episode when I was talking, I thought by now I'd have the place staffed. I'd be not, on a private yacht ready to sail away into in anonymity. But, I definitely would have thought my days would be more filled back on the consulting side, back in the equipment game, rather than taking over social media, spending my days cutting, editing videos, playing golf. Now, the golf is wonderful. But I will tell you, for every episode of Lunch Hour Golf Podcast that you see come across, I think most of them I cut down in under 20 minutes, or I think it's 13 is about where they're coming out, 13 to 15, unless we have like a talking session, and then you'll see 18 or something like that. But for that 18-minute clip, I play for right about an hour, stretch, loosen up, 15, 20 minutes. And then once it's done, I mean, you're talking, depending on how in-depth I could go, I mean, you could edit these things for hours and hours. I think to get that rough product that you're seeing right now on YouTube, I'm probably spending a total of 4 hours, to get that 18 minutes of content. Now we are able to get some pretty good shorts out of it, and that's been really fun. I'm one of those metric heads, like we talked about when I had Salesforce. I could look up, I could see my revenue numbers. Well, now I've got analytics on 5 platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, going from your one analytics or your one revenue sales screen, whatever you want to talk about, however you want to relate it. Imagine looking at that one screen and then going to 5 of them. I mean, now the one was great, because you got it all right there. Now you got little slivers here, and then you got Facebook here where I'm doing pretty good. You got YouTube here, I'm doing pretty good. But TikTok, we're kind of up and down. Instagram, still don't really understand any of these algorithms. But, it's been fun. I love doing it. People's responses have been great. We're going to have Ryan Wilhoit, Kool-Aid, joining us. So we're gonna do Kool-Aid and High C. That's gonna be the Lunch Hour podcast, or Lunch Hour Golf podcast. He's gonna join us when we can. We're still gonna have as many guests as we can, but it's great to have somebody signed on to be a part of all this, because there's nights I'll edit these things till midnight, on top of the kids, on top of the business, on top of getting the house ready to sell, selling the river, getting, the inspections on the new house and all this. I mean, it's just, life is a process. A level up is, if you're doing it right. Now, I have stumbled into level ups before, and just kind of, like we said yesterday, and that'll be somewhere in this show. So it'll be, if it's not before this part, then it's good foreshadowing. If it's not, then I guess it's good tying it back in together. But so amazing to go through these different level ups, because at this level up now I have the experience from my last level up. So I learned specifically, I'm getting better at negotiating home sales. I feel like our first one was an off-market purchase that the real estate agent had brought us in on, and so we didn't get as much of the negotiating because I had the lady was like, "Hey, I'll put it on the market," and it was a gamble on her part, but we truly, even historically looking back, where we're probably proven right at this point, we knew that if it hit the market, we couldn't get it. So we were willing to take that place of a lesser bargaining power because we liked the house. And from there, we learned negotiating from that spot, and to when we sold it, we didn't have to do anything because we were in now the spot. And we sold it on the market. It still sat for a week. We knew it was a desirable area. We knew it was an affordable price. We knew the house was in impeccable shape, 113 years old. We spent 4 or 5 years just basically going down our inspection and leveling up the house, putting a roof on, leveling up the house, garbage disposal, leveling up, changing the toilet, leveling up, things you're not going to get you're not going to see a direct return. You can't say, "Hey, I sold this house because I put in $500 worth of toilets. I got an extra $50,000 in the house." That's not quite linear, but what you can say is it improves the saleability of a home, meaning, if somebody's in this house that I'm asking $500,000 for, they're going to find less things wrong if they look in, they see a new toilet. They open up under the sink and see a new garbage disposal. They see a new roof on the house. They see the garden well maintained. It's not, there's no direct link to say, "Hey, this aspect added this much value to my house." But you can say that there is a correlation. We don't know what it is, where it is, why it is even, although, the why is internal. You just know there's enough people out there that why makes sense to, that's a good why, but there's no way to assign a value to it. So you just have to take these things on understanding or on faith, if you will. And that's been a fun part of leveling up to kind of play with it. And I know we're just kind of running through the topics of this entire show that we filmed, 98% of yesterday. And I just wanted, at first I was just going to come in and wrap it up, but it's just, it's been such a close topic to what I'm going through and what I've been through in every, basically aspect that we talk about, our career on the business side, our family on the parenthood side, and our, even on the golf, there is still a leveling up component. I've still gone through it. Like I said, I've only once in my life bought brand new irons, and the time I did, I'm pleased with them. Not saying Club Champion did me wrong, but I still, in retrospect, I had no business buying or playing blades for the years that I did. A proper, cavity back or more forgiving club would have fit my life, my game better, even though, I swing into it. I fit, quote unquote, into it. So, leveling up is just such a relatable topic, and don't see where I'm at now and say, hey, I'll never get there. If you're younger now, I will say I was going through my demographics the other day, and we're 96% male, and as well as think of that 96% male, 34 to 52 is somewhere near 80%. So one of the highest examples of hitting your demographic that you'll ever see. Now, it's golf. We talk about, golf, parenthood, things like that. Not saying that women aren't interested. I'm just saying that I'm hitting my demographic, and I would love to have more females. And hey, I tell you what, women, I've been trying to get my wife on here forever. We even shot like a little test episode, and it was fantastic. But getting her and I together in good clothes, or good enough clothes, apparently, it's such a task that we just haven't gotten there yet, but we will, and we'll have fun with it. So let's see. Is there anything else I want to wrap up from the show yesterday? I think just that little bit of golf that we just talked kind of wraps up what I was talking about when Chase got here, and I'll probably, as I'm editing this, I may come back and add something, maybe as a voiceover, or maybe you'll get to see a third outfit. I really only have about 6 or 7 of these shirts. So, never know what day it is. We might be going back and adding B-roll. I guess you could tell by my hair, it gets longer every episode. We are going to do an episode with Donald Charbonnet, Elliott Vigil, myself, the one and only Kool-Aid, kind of go over a state of the industry kind of thing. Elliott brings a very interesting perspective of the industry from the general rental, aerial, big box type sales and sales leadership and sales training. And he's so good at it, man. I tell you, the one thing, even going back and editing the videos or the times that it's kind of popped up as I was reviewing playlists and I've listened to segments of it. The way he's so clear, concise, just loquacious with his wording and timing. It's just, he's obviously got a ton of experience. He's done a lot of this, has some good coaching of his own that he's received and that he's able to pass on and he's able to bring to the show. Just one of the easiest flowing conversations I've ever had. So Elliott, and then Donald Charbonnet, that episode was fun. What a guy, what a story, what a history, and what a valuable set of experiences and perspective that he can bring to the show. So we'll start teasing this now, and look, it could be a while. We're in the process of setting schedules. So to get us all aligned first of all, and then to get all the stuff downloaded, uploaded, edited, cut, posted. It could be a month. Shoot, you never know. They may come back and say, let's do it Monday. I get it edited. It could be next week. I would not count on that, but hopefully we'll tease it for a couple weeks. Then we'll start dropping clips, and then eventually someday we will have a show with those guys. And man, thank y'all so much for being a part of the journey, joining. We made some posts today. Our social media is just doing wonderful. YouTube, both podcasts, the Lunch Hour Golf, the Clubhouse, really gaining some traction. Still really working hard to recruit guests. So if anybody's interested, Chase Luzon, Mark Hunter, some of you guys, check us out. It's it's a good time. I love doing these things. My tech is such that we're really good on the off sites, but we love doing in person too. So if you ever find yourself in Birmingham, 90% of the time I'm here. It's me, my wife, and but we're back down to one employee, Jamal, who's he's just been the sun and the moon, and Alex is going to come in when he can, but his real estate business is really taking off. So if you got corporate real estate to sell, come get one of Alex's cards from our networking wall. He's a great dude, still a great friend of the show, a friend of the business, and will come in much. But at the end of the day, it's just me, Anna, Jamal, sometimes my father-in-law if we're really in a pinch. But come see us, man. Walk in, we'll fire it up, we'll do a show, we'll go live, we can cut it, edit it, however you want to do it. But come see us. Hey, thanks so much.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView. Paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right, folks, taking it into our first topic here, business. Leveling up is not about getting more. It's becoming becoming capable of doing more. There we go. I got it out. And it's, it's important because like we talked about earlier, that's the only way you're going to get to the next level. I had a boss one time recommend a book, and it wasn't my favorite, but it was, there were definitely good points. It's called What Got You Here Won't Get You There, and it's basically, I don't remember if it was written directly for salespeople who'd gotten into more of a management role, or I don't even remember if it was ops management versus sales leadership. But you get the gist of what got you to that point, what got you the promotion in the first place is not the set of skills that are going to take you to the next level, right? If you're journeying to a C-suite position and you started out, take my history. You started out as inside sales. You get in, you learn the computer system, learn a little bit about the equipment, and then you go to an outside sales role. Which I think they had me split as a sales associate for a few months, an hourly position into a salaried outside sale commission rep. So you follow those progressions, and then you have that stop at the outside sales, and that's really performance based. You can tell by the metrics how these people are doing. Now there are exceptions, obviously. I've seen guys really out there working and that weren't just weren't given the proper time to kind of grow something. But generally, for the most part, an established rep or an established territory, either one, you're going to get good enough trackable numbers to know if they're sleeping till 10 and back home by 2, or if they're out there grinding. So from taking that all in and from being the standout sales rep, the one who is crushing district numbers, is beating plan, is doing all the things that are expected of an outside sales rep, then that promotion opens up. Hey, you're the perfect candidate. All right, so you have now leveled up. right? And what do we do now, right? So what has changed? Well, first of all, and most glaringly, we've gone from the individual contributor level to the next level, the level of kind of a middle management type, where you're responsible for direct reports. People's career kind of hinge on some of the things that you do, and you can relate it a lot to the military these days, in the corporate world anyway. With efficiency reports is huge in the military, and now you have the annual reviews, and a lot of these engagement type firms are driving for quarterly reviews, feedback upon demand, because you do have those employees that need to hear a little more often than others that hey, you're doing a good job, we appreciate you. I remember looking at all those different personality tests and things when you're hiring. It says, hey, these people have a higher need of someone to praise them, or this guy's real independent. You just help him when he asks, but otherwise stay out of his way. And that's one of the things that was tough to me, learning to take a step back out of that individual contributor role, because it was always me, see problem, fix problem, customer happy, yay. And that was my calculus for everything that I did. And before I got into that leadership role, and I always said, my stop at United was more of a sales leadership than operations, even though, your 9 to 5 was the sales leadership. Your, 5 and after was keeping those operations tight, making sure nothing slipped through the cracks, keeping your inspections up, your scores, things like that. It just becomes so much more at that level. And, one of the perspectives I have taken away was not holding other people to those, high performer standards, as we talked about, I think it was on the stress management episode with Anna, how intentional she is with things like that. You have to be that type of person to be successful, not necessarily to make it to middle management, but to have that drive in the first place to move up. You have to have that perspective, that thought process, that willingness to conquer and not let anything get in your way. But ultimately, the ones who are able to, again, as they take that next step, see the new challenges, adjust to them, make their life fit the new challenges, and it's not always, work takes precedence, family fits here. As I've learned over the years, if one's pushing too hard, if one life force is pushing too hard, and one is getting pushed, away farther from where your happiness demands that it be, it kind of leaves you off center in life, off kilter a little bit, and kind of, leads you to a reset, right? You're not going to be happy in that role. You're not going to be happy in that phase of your family life. You're not going to be happy in that phase of your relationship with your spouse. So, balancing those factors, whatever they may be for you, is critical as we hit these break points, these level ups, these various stops upon life's journey. It's okay to hit your ceiling, right? It's okay to say, okay, I've gotten here. I'm good with this, right? I don't want to keep clawing, grinding, fighting to get to the next level. I don't see a value or a benefit to my life. Again, I said early on in one of the shows with Brandon Kane that I admire the people. I know several that have just reached a point in their life they have enough, they're happy. Don't mess with them outside of designated work time, because that's given over to family or hunting or whatever it is, that passion that they have that's blocked, the desire to go farther with work, to build a bigger bank account, to retire earlier. That good on them, really. I mean, to have found happiness and contentment. I wonder how long I'll search for it, and the things I'll have to sacrifice in my life to get to where I feel driven to be. It's kind of like Elon Musk said. It's the people that are going to do it, don't mind the 80-hour weeks. They don't mind, constantly feeling a little bit tired. They don't mind that. Their biggest challenge is how to keep their, body, mental, wits about them so they can work. And there are people that are driven to do just that, and I admire them too. That takes a certain type of person. I don't think I'll ever be that guy either. To go to the other side of it, you see. About the business people that are up at 3 a.m., trading yen, speaking Japanese on a cell phone in the middle of the night, pacing. There are people that make a lot of money doing that. And there are people that absolutely thrive in that type of pressure situation. And man, good on them. That they found their thing. They're marching their path, right? It's a fun journey. It's a fun thought process to go down that road, kind of like buying lottery tickets and convincing yourself you're going to win. I mean, I know I did with this place. I mean, if you would have asked me before I opened, a year in, where would I be? This place would be staffed, and I'm maybe not on a private island somewhere, but, I'm taking a little mini vacation with my family or doing something that the success of Swing Away or immediate success of Swing Away has allowed me to do a lot quicker than will actually be the case if it does turn out to be at all. But again, if this happens to be a little bit of a financial loss, to have learned all the lessons that I've learned and picked up all the connections, relationships, knowledge, worth every penny, whatever that penny turns out to be. All right, well, I think we pretty much hit leveling up in the business world about as hard as we could. Now let's take it home to the personal side. Stick around, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the Clubhouse Podcast here with Charlie Bolak. We are talking about leveling up. We just hit the business segment, and I mean, really, I've really thoroughly enjoyed this topic because, it relates to what we're doing right now, right? Well, it relates to everything I'm trying to do, with Bolak Business Consulting, with Swing Away Golf Club, with the relationships we're building and the foundations that we're laying for something that could hopefully ultimately go a long way. This is something I want to give to my kids one day. Maybe not Swing Away. enjoying it, would sell the golf business. But the heavy equipment side of it is, my kids have been on job sites. My 14-month-old, I just took a picture of him on a wastewater job site with me the other day, and have pictures of both my older ones, back in that time of their life. So to hand them something, not hand, okay, all right, but that's a topic for a different day. To give them the opportunity to earn something that I built is, I would think most fathers' dreams, right? That's if I can do it, right? And I tell you what, I'm willing to put in the work. As we've talked about, these 16, 18, 20-hour days, some days, not all at Swing Away, not all in Bullock Business Consulting, not all at the house. But when you add it all up, it's there's just so much going on. And I know it's only going to get faster as my kids get older. So, laying the foundation now is a gamble that I'm willing to take to have more time in the future to spend with my family. It may work, it may not. We'll see. All right, so breakpoints. Breakpoints with respect to parenting, breakpoints in your relationship with your spouse, breakpoints career-wise. I think we've hit that, but what we can do is kind of pull it back into the general conversation of parenting, of life management. It all ties together because everything influences everything else, and just the way it could all flow together when it needs to. All right, so we're getting back into it here. The break points. What are the break points you've been to, right, or through to this point? A 6-year-old special needs. There's different break points as he develops. Differently than the other boys. But I'll tell you, the first big break point with Teddy was, I don't know. So I was going to say getting him out of diapers, but really when they can just start holding their own bottle, liquids, formula, whatever you're feeding them. Man, I tell you that was huge for Leah, for all three of them, really. Not having to just sit there, hold them, give them the bottle. I was rushing that one. I love my kids, but I'm so type A. I do not like being in one spot for long at all. I'm up, I pace, and sitting there, giving your kid a bottle. Outside of the staring down at them and just looking at them and enjoying that part of it, there's only so long you can do that. And you're like, hey, I got to do something. I got to work. I got to do this. I got to do that. Grass needs to be cut. It never stops. And maybe I'm guilty of not drinking it in enough because I do genuinely believe, now that. We pretty much admit that, well, not admit, we pretty much have decided that our 15-month-old will be our last kid. So you do want to catch as many of those little moments as you can and not feel pressured or pushed around those last little bits of time. So let's see. What's the next break point? Baby starts walking, toddler starts climbing, 4-year-old testing every rule. Testing my patience. I came up with a good one the other day. I said, you know what? Patience is a muscle, and mine's sore, boy, or mine's getting sore, or something like that. I thought that was a good one. I'm finding new little ways. You know, it's, I guess, what do you call them? Veiled threats, vague threats, random. No, you can't say random threats. But, you know, just getting the message across that, hey, bud, you know, the end of this test is near, I promise. Either you're going to end it or I'm going to.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right, and we're back here talking about break points here. I apologize for the delay. So we were getting into, you know, the next round of break points. But again, dealing with the overarching theme of leveling up, you know, even as you're at the break point or you know what your next break point is and relatively reasonably when to expect it, you know, you don't always see the next round of challenges coming. But I think if you go into it knowing that, hey, this is going to bring a new round of challenges, this is going to be, you know, a new level of difficulty that I have not seen, then you go into it with a much better expectation when, you know, life comes out of nowhere and just whacks you in the head, because it will. And I will tell you that that's happened to me at every level up in my life. Now, sometimes it's been mistakes of mine. Sometimes it's been, you know, just the universe, you know, it was my time, I guess. But just know that there are other people going through the same stuff. It's, you know, it's not easy for anybody. It really isn't. You know, there are some people like my wife who walk a path. You know, they have known forever how they were going to be, what they were going to do, how they were going to get there. And then there's folks like me who I knew where I was going, did not know how I was going to get there, and wasn't really even overly concerned about how I was going to get there because I was willing to gamble on myself, right? And say, hey, it doesn't matter where I go to get there because I'm going to work for it, right? I'm not scared to put in the hours. I'm not scared to get my hands dirty. I'm not scared to learn. And the biggest benefit in my life has always been that I've never been scared to ask for help. You know, I think probably has something to do with being raised by a single mother. She was an RN at a hospital, not a half mile from our house. And I had family 20 houses right up the road. So if my mom would work late or something like that, I'd be, you know, around the house. And if I ever got scared, you know, I know I could walk to Sandra's, got hungry, walk to Sandra's, you know, I got, you know, aunts and uncles the other way too, cousins. So just never occurred to me to sit in a corner banging my head against the wall because I couldn't find a solution, because I've always been eager and willing to search out that solution by going to whoever I think has the answer and say, hey, you know, teach me the answer. You know, don't tell me the answer. Let's, you know, walk me through what you're doing, how you're getting there, because I'm going to repeat that process. I'm going to apply it to my life, and I'm going to, you know, use it to find my next level up. That kind of got off the topic from parenting, but I think that topic, fatherhood can go so many different ways, because to understand the father you want to be, you got to understand the man you are, and the man you are was developed by everything it took you to get to where you are today. I'm not the same guy I was yesterday, because I've learned, I've grown, I've changed, and that's why certain people will go farther in life. I mean, I hate to, say it that bluntly, blatantly, or rudely, but, you run across people in this world that, all they're willing to give is the minimum effort. I think you deserve the minimum reward if you're only willing to give the minimum effort.
Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
You get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
that was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your country.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
This is Live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak.
Thank you again for sticking around. We're going to switch on over now to golf. I think that got kind of maudlin quick there. I think we've all fallen victim to this, right? As I'll take a walk through my entire golf history. So never played until I was in high school. Had some buddies that got hired on a local golf course, Bent Brook Golf Course, a couple miles from Swing Away Golf Club here in beautiful Birmingham, Alabama. I think technically they've incorporated now. They're McCalla or something like that. But got a job out there at 15 years old. Worked for about 2 weeks before they found out I meant to hang up the phone and hit stop recording. I'm glad I caught that, or we'd end up in a situation where we had a guy talking on screen and no audio. I've done that before several times. It's frustrating. All right, so here we were switching back to golf. I was going overall, kind of history of my golf. Get hired at Bent Brook Golf Course, 15 years old, couple weeks of work. I think I'd gotten one check, and it might have even been when they were processing. I think they were processing my first check, and somehow my birth date flagged as, hey, he doesn't have a driver's license. So go to pick up my check, and a fatherly arm with the director of golf. Hey, kid, sorry, we thought you were 16. You're not old enough. Come back when you are, though. And it wasn't long. It was maybe a month or two. And got my license, started working at Bent Brook, got relatively good at golf. There for I don't know. I probably worked there for a year and a half, I would say, maybe 2 years, and could play for free, and took advantage of it and played. I mean, boy, in the summers, there would be days we'd play 36, 54 holes, sun up to sundown. I mean, I was never great, right? I don't think I ever broke 80. I got close a couple times. I don't think I ever did in high school. Then on to college, couldn't afford to pay for it myself. So golf game fell into disrepair. Get out in my career. I was in a sales job in Odessa, Texas. I took my golf clubs. I hit on the range a couple times out there. But really, when I got back and got into heavy equipment and man, my territory was doing so good. This is 2016. I had a big job at a power plant, a big job at a data center, and several good sewer bypass projects, and could justify, taking customers to play golf several times a week, because, you're throwing in these POs. So they don't care what you're out doing. You've got an increased budget for your entertaining. And so I did. I mean, I spent a lot in probably 2016, 17, maybe even up to maybe even into 18 a little bit. But then, life, business, just everything gets crazy. So, but yeah, got really back into golf, had picked up some, cheap clubs years prior just to, play here and there. But probably at that point in my life before, the heavy equipment, I couldn't have gone out and broken 100. I would have been thrilled if I did. Let's put it that way. 2016, though, that changes. We're playing a lot of golf. I'm making good money. So I go to a place called Club Champion, and they fit me there for some irons. And it wasn't a tough sell. I always wanted Mizunos. I'd never bought a new set of irons. I'd already cleared it with my wife, had my budget. So went in and get fitted, and of course fit into blades, which I did not need. I was not good enough for blades, but because the 3 shots I happened to hit with that head and that shaft combo were the best of the data points we got in the fitting, I got blades, and I kept them for years. Now, I love the clubs. Nothing against Club Champion or definitely Mizuno. I still have a set of Mizunos, but they were heavy and they were blades, right? So when I went from playing as much as I was to, kind of slowing it down, doing more of the family thing, having to actually work a little bit more, it went the other way. And looks like we're going to have some people coming in here. I'm going to try to wrap this segment up real quick, but I do have a lot of topics. So they'll probably end up being a cut and fuse job here. But yeah, let's go through real quick. See if there's some high points we want to hit. Well, let's just finish the story. So, all right. So Mizuno, we got the blades, hit them great, loved them for years. Slowed down. My ability to play slowed down, and gained a little paunch there. Howdy, what's up, dude?
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right, Birmingham, it's your time to tee it up indoors. Qualify August 18th through the 21st for the inaugural Birmingham Indoor Open, individual stroke play, flexible tee times, and a $500 championship prize. Then gather your crew for the Big Rooster Scramble. Qualify August the 4th through September 4th. The top 3 teams advance, and one leaves Swing Away as the Big Cock champions. Book now.
Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
You get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
that was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your customer.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
This is Live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak.
Howdy, swingers. Charlie Bolak here, founder of Swing Away Golf Club and host of the Clubhouse Podcast. I want to tell a little story as we get going here about what happened to me the first morning in our new house here. If you're following along with everything we're putting out, we moved, let's see, was it last Wednesday? So this would have been last Thursday morning. It was 6:45 in the morning. I had one of my boys in the car on the way to take him to daycare. we weren't maybe 600 yards, down the road from leaving the new house. My brain is just out there on, new house, old house, boxes, daycare, swing away, what had I forgotten, what had to happen next. And of course I hadn't had my coffee yet. Lately I've been working personally on what I call signal to noise ratio. I didn't coin the term, but it's signal to noise ratio. Some people can function with a very high noise ratio, meaning distractions in their life. They can still get their stuff done. They can still find the signal in all that noise and continue to go. The signal is basically what needs to be done. Their task is, think about it that way. Their task is the signal. Stop treating every piece of information, every notification, every problem, every thought as equally important. Find the signal, the thing that actually matters right now. So the way I'm doing it is kind of as I go, I'll have an idea of what tasks I need to be, how I have them prioritized, and I won't let anything get in my way. The goal will be to have this set of tasks done before lunch, and that's where I even look at, I've got an idea of what tasks need to be done after lunch, but I haven't prioritized them. I haven't set about how to efficiently maximize the effort in getting them done. It's a pretty sharp irony in what happened. I was using a lot of my brain's processing power, thinking about how to better use my brain's processing power. My body was driving down Broadway and my mind was moving houses, running a business, planning the day, trying to become more productive. And then suddenly a cyclist was right in front of me. He was, crossing from whatever left side he was riding on to off kind of in a neighborhood. And I assume this is pretty common practice in the area. I've since talked to a couple of people that say, cyclists are everywhere. And that was just, hey, that's on me. I didn't think about it. We both reacted. We both got scared. Thankfully, nothing happened. He probably had the right of way. The honest truth is that I wasn't looking for a cyclist to be there at 6:45 in the morning before I'd had my first, sip of coffee or any caffeine for that matter. But that's an explanation, not an excuse, right? He didn't have to know where my head was, what kind of morning I was having. It was my responsibility to be aware of my surroundings enough to know that, hey, there's a cyclist right here. What am I going to do if all of a sudden he decides he's going that way? My accident chain, it started early in the morning, maybe even the night before, maybe even with the whole move, and in previous episodes, we talked about in level ups and in moving, you can do so much to prepare. And I was talking to Anna, and it did feel like there was a lot of front end work. Now, what I guess didn't portend was that whereas my previous history was moving 2,500 square foot house with mostly Anna and I's stuff, as very young parents to a 2-year-old and maybe one just born or very, very young when we moved the last time anyway. And we just didn't have as much stuff. It wasn't quite as stressful. I did all the packing as kind of how our history has been, but it wasn't near the amount of stuff. The scale of the operation was kind of underestimated again on my part. And if you follow along and listen, underestimating things is kind of a trend of mine. How long is it going to take me to pressure wash the driveway? How long is it going to take me to build these 7 planters and fill them with compost? It's all these different things going on. And, for one brief moment on Broadway, those two paths intersected, and thankfully, they didn't connect, crossed just on a different plane of existence. And that's what kind of stays with me, and I'm sure with him too. I think we both probably had to get where we were going and check our britches, make sure that we didn't have to go back home and shower again. In aviation, the FAA says that error chain recognition, the NTSB investigates transportation accidents, gathering facts, analyzing conditions and decisions, determining probable cause, and recommending safety improvements. The point is not merely to name the last person who touched the chain. The point is to find the links that could have been broken. And really, the more I thought about it, in the days, subsequent, the more I realize that mistake chains are everywhere. They happen in business when one vague promise becomes a messy deal. They happen in parenting when fatigue, distraction, assumptions, and one small incident turns into something much bigger. They happen in golf when one bad swing becomes a bad decision, then another bad decision, and suddenly, you got a snowman on the scorecard. I'm notorious for that. It's not necessarily a 10 cup thing. I won't sit there and try the same shot over and over because I know deep down in my head I can get it there. I may know deep down in my head I can get it there, but it's taking the medicine, right? It's realizing that the first mistake may be unavoidable, but the chain that follows often is not. It often starts with smaller mistakes that build and build and build. What would never be thought of as a mistake outside of that particular chain that eventually caused an accident all compounds upon itself to get you to, as I had a professor at Auburn say, that all this leads up to get you to the crash site, and that's, it's a brutal truth, but that's what it is. It's all these things lead to, the incident that spurred the investigation in the first place. Talking about the signal noise, the signal changes, depending on the moment. At work, the signal may be the customer, the contract, the uncomfortable truth nobody wants to say out loud. At home, the signal may be the child trying to tell you something while your phone's ringing, your schedule, you've got emails, calls, other things demanding your attention, especially, with kids out for summer. Maybe you don't have the same parameters for sending them to daycare. Hey, he wakes up a little tired. You don't have necessarily the most packed schedule that day. So you say, hey, you know what? You stay out of school. We'll have some fun today. And then you get busy at work, and part of you is just like, why did I do this? Why did I do this to myself? How did I bring this on? But it's always what we do once we're in these situations, how we react, how we get back kind of to center line and have that decompression thought of, hey, this could have been a lot worse. This is how I'm going to think about avoiding this in the future. So on the signal to noise, behind the wheel, the signal is the road. Everything else has to be noise. I cannot be using that much of my processing power on thinking of how to process better. That can run in the background, right, for all you computer people. I'm not good enough at it yet to know that, or know where that is or how that's done. So that is something that I will work on in my personal journey. And to the cyclists that I scared on Broadway, I'm sorry. If this episode somehow finds you, come see me at Swing Away. We'll have a talk about it, have hopefully an uncomfortable laugh about it, and your first beer is on me. I mean, not because a beer erases the moment, but because ownership should have a next step. This episode is about mistakes, not pretending we can eliminate them, not defending them, and not allowing one mistake to define us forever. It's about finding our link in the chain, owning it, learning from it, and breaking the chain before it becomes something we can't undo. I know a lot about that, so tune into the episode. It's going to be a great one. We're talking about mistakes.
Here's what people don't tell you about leveling up. If you want to move from this to this, you got to do a whole lot of work in between like this. You got to keep these places up to keep them ready. A lot of people pay for it, but if you want to have your money working for you, it's elbow grease, baby. Are you ready? If you value hard work, enjoy golf, and want to hear about leveling up, moving, parenting, stuff that I have real world experience with, give us a listen at the Clubhouse Podcast. Find us on YouTube or Spotify today. And as always, come and see us at Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right. Howdy, folks. Welcome back. Charlie Bolak here. This is the Clubhouse Podcast. Episode is mistakes, and our business segment is taking ownership of a messy deal. Classic, right? We've all done it. I mean, even back in my restaurant days, I forget to ring something in, and man, I don't know what's taking the kitchen so long tonight, or hey, sorry, we're really shorthanded back there tonight. We've all had those moments where you kind of think about taking the blame or how you're going to pass it on, and sometimes we make the wrong decision, right? And that is a mistake. Ownership's easy when the result is good. It's my customer, it's my project, my sale, my idea. When the result gets ugly, you know, when it's a tough deal, something's gone wrong, our language suddenly changes. You know, they, operations, the vendor, the customer. Taking ownership, it doesn't mean accepting the blame for every mistake, but it definitely means injecting yourself to where you could have stopped it from being the mistake that it was, right? Recently, we had a sales rep change positions or change companies in the middle of one of our deals through a manufacturer, and you know, we just kind of rock along thinking the deal's good, and we get a couple weeks out, start trying to check on things, can't get in touch with people, hard to get answers, and about a week later, when we finally get to the bottom of what's going on, there's a lead time problem with a major component. So the pumps are ready to be manufactured. There's everything sitting there except this one major component that, you know, that you could do some work of the assembly outside of it, but it's really, you know, there's not much you can do because this component makes all the difference, right? It's how you build from there back. And if we would have known this early on, then we would not have found ourselves in this situation of coming to the customer. Hey, Mr. Customer, you know, you're this is supposed to be your week of delivery, and now I'm going to tell you it's going to be 4, possibly even 6 weeks before we are able to deliver, you know, what we told you we're going to. And you know, my solution, right, was to go to the customer and say, hey, this is on me. Not that I let this major component slip through the cracks or anything, but what I didn't do was continue my, follow up with the vendor enough to know that, hey, the guy I was with is no longer with the company. I need to get with them, follow up, see where my deal is, right? Because somebody is going to have to take over all of his stuff, right? And hopefully this wasn't his only deal, right? So there's some pieces to pick up and some communication to loop everybody through. And if I was the squeaky wheel and all that, I probably would have gotten some grease a lot earlier than I did. So why not make that the center focus of the customer rather than going, because ultimately if you go, hey, Mr. Customer, the vendors let us down here. Well, you know what, Charlie, you brought me that vendor. You sat in this same chair in my office telling me how good this vendor was. So, that's going to fall back to you anyway, right? Why not just own it? Say, hey, yes, the vendor did make the mistake, but ultimately the mistake lies with me for not being the squeaky wheel. And I know there's a lot of people that don't want to be that person, and there's ways around it, right? You don't have to be the annoying person that sends 50 emails a day. Hey, are we going to be on schedule? Hey, are we going to be on schedule? But hey, every week, every other week at least, follow up. Hey, just making sure we're on schedule. Because if I would have followed up 6 weeks ago, I would have got that email bounce back that said, so and so address not recognized or whatever, and thought, okay, well, it's time to go ahead and get involved and figure out where everything is and what's going down. And that would have saved a lot of headache. And it would have, saved a lot of back end work where, me and the guy I'm partnering with on this deal, have had to go, find other options, make some concessions that we wouldn't have had to make otherwise, on a deal. So it's ultimately, it falls on us to make sure our deals are progressing correctly. There's a bunch of ways to go to the customer. There's a bunch of things you could say. There's a bunch of blame shifting you could do. We're seeing a lot of that in our personal life. And again, I don't call out anybody on these things. I did call out a guy one time that left me a bad Google review, but that's I've since had to let that go. It still bothers me. Another subject for another day. Being honest, being forthright, accepting of the blame is often the easiest, fastest way to put this to bed. Because ultimately, I expected a lot more upset customer than I got, because what what more could he say when can they sit there? Well, yes, they could. And I've been there, done that. They just berate you for a screw up. But, ultimately 90% of the people that you do business with are going to understand because they've seen it. They've been through it. They just want to hear that you picked up a little bit of a lesson. Say, hey, this won't happen again because this is how I'm going to do the next deal. And that resonates with people. They appreciate the honesty, and they will stick with you more times than not, and they'll cut you a lot more slack than you ever think that they would. So yeah, a couple points to kind of recap on there. A messy deal rarely begins as a disaster, right? It kind of builds, it becomes one through, a sequence, optimism, assumptions, vague promises, incomplete documentation, missed check-in, just like we talked about, avoided conversations when it took a week to get in touch. We knew something was going on. We didn't know how bad it was going to be. And thankfully, we did message the customer that, hey, we're having some communication issues. We expect this means there's a problem. Don't know what it is or how bad yet. We'll be in touch. And that's the kind of thing that will make your customer want to do business with you, because he didn't have to track you down to figure out that you were going to miss your delivery date. Now, it was later than we would have liked to have informed the customer, but ultimately we were able to cut it off head on, say, hey, this is the problem, this is where it's at, this is what we expect the resolution to be. And again, anytime you can sandwich these things, good news, bad news, good news, good lesson, bad news, lesson learned, there's so many ways to make these work. And I'm in my personal life, I listen to a lot of Audible, and I'm working on one. It's called Make It Stick. It's how messaging works. And I think these guys are like marketing professors, really well written though. And just, they're easy to talk, or it's easy to listen to. And the message resonates, right? That's what we have to get to with the customer. It is get to a point where he knows in his brain that connection is made, that, hey, yes, there's a problem. Charlie's on top of it. I'm on to my next problem because I know he's handling this. And that's ultimately, if you can be that guy, you will keep that customer and you're on to your next deal. Just the way it works. So to tie this into kind of some of the signal to noise stuff that I've been working on, noise in these types of situations would be, blaming, going through old emails and pulling out the fact, well, you said that this would be, well, I'm saying now that's not, protecting people, proving who was most wrong, the blame shifting that we talked about, and trying to be the least wrong person in the room. Golly, I told my wife in one of these situations with trying to sell our current house, well, our old house, the house we lived in. It's to me, somebody who does this for a living, and is not scared to go to somebody and say, hey, this is what's wrong. This is what happened. This is how we got ourselves in this situation. This is how we're going to get ourselves out of this situation. Being able to communicate the signal. I mean, everybody was like, well, he said this, you said that, and there were a couple of things that they would tell my wife, though, well, Charlie said this. And no, Charlie absolutely did not. Now, I will say that I don't have the memory that I used to. And if you catch me when my mind's one place and you ask me something, you're going to get probably a different answer than if I were sitting down actually thinking about a question. But I know well enough to say, I did not make that decision. That was not asked to me. And that's blame shifting. It's why not just define the problem, skip how we got there, go to how we're going to fix it. And that was one of my leadership. One of the biggest challenges, it is when there was a problem at the branch. Classic for us was to forget, on a $20,000 delivery, 100 pieces, the one piece that would make it all work, the auto start switches or a strainer or and you can do all these things right, but if you miss that one part, if some of these jobs are 2.5, 3 hours away, you lose a guy for a whole day just to take that one part. Or you find a part dart and pay out the nose. But most of the time somebody would rather lose a guy that you pay $150 a day as opposed to pay $750 to run it with a part dart. So it's it doesn't matter how. Now we will always go back, and I think they call them postmortems. I never liked that. I would just say, hey, we're going to look at this and we're going to talk about where we went wrong and how we're going to avoid it. And the key there, especially from the leadership perspective, is to not turn it into a witch hunt of, 3 people in the room say you did this. The other 2 guys say they saw you put it in the so, it doesn't matter. Ultimately, what matters is the part didn't get to the customer. We're going to lose a guy, for a day to make that work because we don't want to pay the money. How are we going to, as a group, pull together, get the rest of it done, and then come together afterwards and decide, hey, this is what we're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen in the future. At no point is there this guy specifically left the piece off the truck. He was responsible for it. But what it will build to is this guy will be responsible moving forward, right? If it was not clearly defined before, after that meeting, after that discussion, it was clearly defined. Next time this happens, this is on this person. And it's going to be their responsibility to pick up the pieces, right? To do all the flexing to make everything else work. And that's accountability. And that's how this mindset needs to translate to the trenches for it to work. I think that takes care of business. Stick with us. We'll come back. And
we've really built a world-class golf facility here in Birmingham, Alabama. From the 16-foot wide bays to the real Italian leather bar stools, we designed this place with luxury in mind, and I don't think we missed. So whether you're looking to level up your game, have a fun, relaxing evening, or test yourself in one of our leagues or tournaments, do yourself a favor and take a short drive up Lake Shore to experience it for yourself, because I promise you one thing, Swing Away Golf Club is a place to be. Conveniently located off of Lake Shore Drive at 100 Frankfurt Circle, next to Overtime. We look forward to seeing you soon. Practice, play.
All right, welcome back. Let's talk about parenting, mistakes, specifically in parenting. So, Clubhouse Podcast, the episode is mistakes. We've all made them, right? Parents live with divided attention, work, dinner, phone, one child talking, another child climbing, the youngest, could start walking at any minute. He can already crawl, fast as the Flash. So it's every day there's something new. There's something you got to be on the lookout for. We're into the dog bowl right now. If he can get a clear line to that thing and take off crawling, and I shudder to think when he's fast enough, last night I had to run down the hall. Run full speed because he saw me. He knew I was coming for him, and that dog bowl was his signal at the moment. All of this builds, into what could be a physical accident chain, a mental accident chain where, you lose your temper, you're a little, I don't want to say aggressive because it's not, not physically aggressive, but you could be, a little tougher with your kid than you intended to be, right? I think we've all done it. And mistakes, don't have to lead to, a kid falling down the steps, but, one of my chains that recently occurred, and I don't think it was the first night in the new house, but it was relatively quick thereafter. Went up in the middle of the night. Frank had woke up, get him back to sleep, and when I'm coming down, there's a gate at the top of our stairs, just one of the little screw-in gates to the wall, and kids can open it. Well, Teddy can now. So we leave it closed though, because if Ted wakes up in the middle of the night and wants to come down, he's kind of half awake, half asleep. We don't want him. He may have socks on. We don't know. We don't want him to fall down the steps in that half awake sleep. So we keep that gate closed. And there's other purposes for it. If the baby's awake and crawling around, we don't want to have to watch every second and make sure he's not going to just take a flying leap right down the steps. So keep it closed at night. And then, the other night he just materialized in our room, and Anna had asked me if I closed the gate. I said, yeah, I closed the gate when I got Frank. Yeah, absolutely. I have a vivid memory of doing it. But she's like, how'd you get down? The gate was open. She just kind of gave me the little cross-eyed look, or cut across stare. You know what I'm talking about, when you've made a mistake, and someone else has to witness your mistake. So again, ownership, apology. My apologies to Anna for leaving, and to Teddy for leaving the gate open. But it's that kind of stuff. It doesn't have to be a huge falling down the steps. There could have been zero consequence. But you know what? If you don't make that change, then one day the likelihood will continue to increase that one day he's going to fall down those steps. And I guess that's life. So, something easy I can do to prevent something on the back end. What else? Emotional accidents, a hard work day, it follows you home, your child spills something, tone gets sharp. Children change the conditions constantly. Yesterday's, reliable routine, may not fit what needs to happen today. We got Ted's sports coming up. He's got a fall soccer season, that'll be starting pretty soon. So we're looking at schedules, seeing how we can kind of adjust what we're doing, seeing if we can staff swing away certain nights to accommodate, soccer, and we want to get him into some other stuff. So it's there's always a lot, going on, and a parenting mistake, just it doesn't have to be a big deal. Stop. If you cut across your kid in a snippy way, stop. Say, hey buddy, I didn't mean to do that. It's, I apologize. You can take ownership without making excuses, and really, you don't even have to go into a long drawn out explanation of, oh, daddy's had this and this and this. Just, hey, look, Dad just had a bad moment. I apologize. Let's move on. And kids are resilient, and spouses will see that and appreciate it. It's it just doesn't have to become an identity. Put it to bed real quick. Acknowledge it. Apologize. Explain what you're going to do to, like we said in business, explain what you're going to do to make sure this doesn't happen again, and reconnect, move on. Positive chain works too. A bedtime story, put down a phone at dinner. One patient answer builds upon another. Your kids seeing you, take ownership and apologize, will set an example for them. And it builds a level of emotional trust over time, where I think that the other day, Teddy, I said something, and Teddy was like, "It's okay, Daddy." I was like, "What?" Yeah, he was like, I know you didn't mean to say it like that or something like that, because of the way I would apologize for it before. And it triggered me to stop, and say, "Hey, absolutely, you're right." That, and again, that was me. That's on me. And it's, hey, it works. So let's see if we can get some signal to noise in here. Noise may be the mess. It may be the spilled drink. The 10th asking of the same question. Or just the fact that your head is somewhere else, working on schedules, or working on a budget, or working on anything that your brain desires to work on at the moment. It's hard to separate sometimes. These electrical things up in our skull, have a mind of their own to a certain extent. It's learning how to kind of control them and hack them and get them to do your bidding without thinking that they're doing your bidding. That's the way we get past some of these, just typical issues. I mean, again, if you every now and then get a little snippy with your kid and you feel bad about it, that makes you a good person, not a bad person for having done it. A great parent for being reflective enough to think, you know what, hey, that probably wasn't the best thing for me to do. That wasn't the best example I could have set for my kid, or I could have done A, B, C, or D. And that's what's important. That's the takeaway. Your children will see you grow. Parenting is a journey in and of itself. It's incredible the change that these kids will have on you and in your life if you prioritize growing yourself with them. All right. Well, let's take it to golf. I'm excited for golf. I haven't got to play as much with the move, and I'm scared. Well, I played, was it 2 days ago, and I was rusty. I don't understand how you could just go from being as sharp and as dialed in to 3 to 4 days off. Just and it doesn't take much to get back. It's not like you build a huge layer of rust in that short of a time. But you definitely have to knock some rust off. And I wasn't even, at the highest. I couldn't imagine at the highest levels, when some of these guys, if they go down for an injury, how hard they have to work to get back. But we'll save that for golf. We'll be right back. Thanks for sticking around.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right, welcome back to the Clubhouse Podcast with Charlie Bolak here. We're talking about mistakes, and this is our golf segment. So we have all made plenty of mistakes on the golf course. What I have noticed in my years of playing golf with bunches of different people as a salesman is that some people react to the bad shots better. Everybody hits a bad shot. Since I've opened Swing Away, I've watched a lot more of the PGA Tour, and even the best in the world find themselves in the trees, in the rough, in the bunker, in the water. It all starts with a bad shot for the amateur golfer and how they react to it. You will very rarely see the pros try the type of hero shot that you will see me try to take from the middle of the trees at Robert Trent Jones or from the deepest bunker on the course at Bentbrook. And we all do it. It's the classic decision chain, the classic mistake chain, the classic drive one into trouble, refuse to take the medicine, hit your next shot into even worse trouble, get angry, get to the third or fourth shot, depending on if you're in a hazard or not, and just walk up to it, whack it, and then maybe by the fifth shot, you're able to, kind of slow those emotions down, get up to it, make a reasoned, approach shot. But ultimately it ends up in a snowman on the scorecard or worse. It's one of the most frustrating things we'll ever do, but it's also basically a microcosm, the easiest way to study a decision chain, because it happens so fast, so frequently, and in such real time that, it would be a psychologist's dream to study, or whoever aggregates that type of numbers. They'd love it, because there would be just such a immense sample size of golfers that go out there and do the same thing, rather than saying, okay, that was a bad shot. Well, I'm going to get to this ball. I'm going to look at the damage that one bad shot did, and I'm going to fix it. And if we approach life, business, parenting, and all of it, the way we could approach this golf ball after a bad shot, then, we would all ultimately probably lead better lives. But none of us can make that. Well, very few of us can make that decision. I even do it on the Sims. It can happen so fast in indoor golf. You can go from a great round to a 90 because 3 holes happen so fast that within 7 minutes you've gone from even par to 8 over because you got a little upset. So I tend to these days try to double down my focus. I get real quiet. If you watch the lunch hour golf at all when we stream it, when I'm doing good and hitting good shots, I'm relaxed, I'm comfortable, I'm talking, I'm explaining what I'm doing, my thought processes. But then after a few, bad shots, bad hole, a few bad outcomes, I get real quiet. I really get real focused, and I can really get pretty down on myself pretty quick. And I think, it's been my experience that I have seen that out of a lot of golfers that I've been paired with over the years. And it's hard not to get into that situation, right? It's frustrating. You put a lot of work in, during the week, whether it's going to the range or going to the sim and knowing your numbers, or however you choose to practice. If you choose to practice, if you're like I used to be, you would just get mad because you didn't go out once a week and shoot a great number. And that's, I think that's a normal feeling and a normal result for amateur golfers, because not everybody has the time or the willingness to go out, put in the work it's going to take to be a really good golfer, and they expect better out of themselves even though they're not practicing. Just like on the work episode, the guitar story that the guitar instructor kept telling me, I know you're not practicing because your fingers aren't getting more, whatever they called it, and they were right. I, as a kid, saw my whatever hour a week, probably, if that, as a lot of work. I saw that as a big input of my time, and it just, I wasn't getting and to this day I can't play the guitar because it probably takes a little bit more of a time investment than I've ever been willing to put in. So let's take it to signal noise. noise is the previous shot. You're playing partners. If their buddies heckling you, giving a hard time. The score you think you need, the tucked pin, the hazards. It's the YouTube swing thoughts. I love Bob Does Sports and those guys, but they get in my head sometimes, and I'll just be in a random round of golf and remember one of their shots and just start chuckling or something like that. And sometimes it affects the game, sometimes it doesn't. Most of the time it doesn't. But it is. You've got all this running through your head, and that's the noise. The noise is the desire to prove that you can do this. And the signal is looking where the ball is, what the lie is giving you, where the safe target is, and the shot that you can realistically expect to be able to execute based off of where your game is. It's almost like you're trying to get revenge on the golf course for your bad shot, and it's we all do it. Again, it's not. But it's not the golf course's fault. It's generally not the club's fault unless you're just hitting something that's not built for your swing or style of golf, or generally if you're playing a course that would require a different setup of clubs than you ultimately play. And I think that's something a lot of amateur golfers will never do, and I probably never will. Is having different club sets for different conditions or styles of golf. You've got guys that will play different degree drivers based on the tees they're going to play, or the distance of the course they're playing, or the width of the fairways, the length. And first of all, I have one driver that I play, and that's my driver. But ultimately, some guys, have tons of different clubs for different conditions, different courses they're going to be, and that's up to the individual. If you want to play just one set of clubs, ultimately, if you want to have these different abilities to hit these different shots, then you're going to have to practice a lot more than the guy that has 71 wedges and says, okay, today, this course, it's got some elevated greens. I'm going to bring, more of my lofted wedges. Again, I don't do that. I know guys that do, and I see value and benefits in both sides. That's an investment of time and money that I don't want to make. And that's, that's one of the overarching themes of the golf segment itself on this podcast, is that you can go as far as you want with it. Some people have more, just natural ability than others. Some people can take a little bit of practice a lot farther than others. But, ultimately the result is that if you're working to improve, unless there is a reason you can't, you will. It's logic. Right? It's time, it's repetition, it's not rocket science. I think, there's a level of critical thinking where some people would find a ceiling. And in golf, there's a level of physical ability where people will find a ceiling. But unless you're practicing multiple days a week, and doing all of those things, have the multiple sets of clubs, have the clubs that are fitted to your swing speed and your style, unless you're doing all that, you're gonna plateau. But if you're doing all that, you will see, marginal improvements. You will get to the point of what is it, the law of inverse return, where continuing to work harder and harder and harder will not get you incremental gains anymore, because you've gotten as far as your natural ability is going to allow. But it's, not many people get to that. Not many amateurs get to that, because not many have the time or the willingness to put in the money or the time to make it happen. All right. Well, I think I did get a little carried off of the signal to noise. So the noise, when you're looking over that next shot after a bad shot, Generally for me, if I hit a good drive, I will duff my approach. So I would be sitting on it, maybe somewhere from 25 to 80 yards out. And generally these days, I'm not going to be in that bad of trouble now. 2 years ago, when I hadn't been playing a lot because of kids and all of that, I hadn't discovered indoor golf yet. I could be looking at a drive that's in the left-hand woods and, there's a very little, window to get to the green. And it's just such a low probability of you hitting that shot as opposed to just chipping out, third, let's just hope to get up and down, just take a bogey and be happy, as opposed to running the risk of having a triple, quadruple, as high as you want to go. The signal is looking over the ball and thinking how best to escape that situation with the least disruption to your score. Just escape this hole. The hole, there's no saving it. Let's just try to not let it kill our round. And if we can live on that, that's to me, ultimately, that's how you break 80 or that's how you get to that even par. It is not necessarily by having these, just incredibly perfect shots that end up 3 inches from the hole. It's, playing consistent where you are playing, getting yourself within 20 feet green in regulation. If you do that, you're gonna have pars all day, and you're gonna roll in a few of those for birdie. There's just, outside of a 3-putt would be a bogey. A good 1-putt would be a birdie, but a solid 2-putt pars all day. If you can get on or near the green in regulation, you will be putting up decent enough scores. That's good enough on golf.
Here's what people don't tell you about leveling up. If you want to move from this to this, you got to do a whole lot of work in between like this. You got to keep these places up to keep them ready. A lot of people pay for it, but if you want to have your money working for you, it's elbow grease, baby. Are you ready? If you value hard work, enjoy golf, and want to hear about leveling up, moving, parenting, stuff that I have real world experience with, give us a listen at the Clubhouse Podcast. Find us on YouTube or Spotify today. And as always, come and see us at Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
Howdy, folks. Thanks for sticking around. If you noticed, different shirt, had a group come in about 10:30. We had a great time. I just wasn't able to get this last segment in. So let's. I've had another day to kind of reflect on things, but then it's not quite as top of mind as it was yesterday either. So let's try to take this home and just kind of to tie it all in. Mistakes happen everywhere. A mistake in business, as long as you own it, you can minimize it. As long as you work to fix what happened in the first place, you fix the immediate need, you fix what caused the disruption in the first place, and then you go to the customer, explain it all, tell them what you've done to protect future deals, and you're going about your life. I've in my career maybe only had one customer that was just irrationally upset after something went wrong and was not receptive to me offering, hey, this is what I've done, this is how I'm going to protect it, this is how I'm going to fix it. If you do it that way, if you sandwich it with what you've done, how you're going to fix it, how it's never going to happen again, it's so rare that people aren't understanding, because they put on their clothes the same way we do. They go through the same struggles and challenges that we do. And they know the situation, right? They've been there, they've done that, they've got the t-shirt. All right, so at the beginning of the episode, told you about 2 possible accident chains almost crossing on Broadway. Mine, I can easily trace it back, new house, change routine, kids in the car, I'm tired, no caffeine, not excuses, but after reflection, this is how I got there. It was like, one of those movie sequences or commercials or however it is, where it just stops. It's like, this is how we got ourselves in this situation. I'm not good enough at editing to do something like that, so I'll just talk about it here. How about that? It taught me that good intentions don't create attention. Being busy doesn't change the responsibility in front of you as a driver. Being tired doesn't change it. Moving houses doesn't change it. Thinking about productivity definitely doesn't change it, because that defeats what you're trying to work on in the first place. Productivity is not necessarily keeping more thoughts in motion. It's knowing how to prioritize them into what brings the most value by accomplishing now. How many items can I have on my list before it becomes too many and I'm not effective at any of them because I'm trying to do a little bit of a lot? Parenting, the signal is not always the schedule, the mess, getting everybody out the door. Sometimes the signal is the child standing right in front of you. In golf, it's not always the shot you just ruined or the score you're walking off the green with. It's how you're going to handle that adversity, how you're going to bounce back, and what is your plan to block the noise. Signal can be block the noise. If you think about the functionality of a white noise machine, what is it? It's to block all the other noise. Makes sense. That's how I sleep better. Behind the wheel, the signal is the road. Everything else is noise. We can build a defense or we can build a better system. We can spend our energy proving that the mistake was understandable, or we can use that energy to make sure that doesn't happen again, right? When something goes wrong, run your own internal investigation. Start with the fact. You can tell your own self a story, You can also go in and investigate your own memories and sometimes come out with a different outcome and different understanding of the situation, So when I was looking at it, what was the first link? We've already talked about it, all those things, and there is no fault to that. I mean, if people were faulted for buying a new house, it would be a tough world. The fault is losing perspective and losing situational awareness of what was going on immediately in front of me while I'm thinking about 18 other things. That is what it boils down to the root cause of the near miss was I did not have my brain ready to be driving, and I was driving. Again, I name it, I own it, I repair what I can. I've offered the beer, I've apologized, I've said, hey, I am going to be more aware as I'm driving around, our new city, because there are people who choose to enjoy that hobby of cycling in Homewood. And as a responsible driver on the public roads, it is my responsibility to be aware of where they could be and do my best to proceed as safely as possible. All right, let's see. I mean, I think that's really it. Other than how you respond to adversity, to these challenges, day after day will define the human being you will wake up one morning and realize that you are. That's a great place to end. Thank you so much. We'll see you next time here on the Clubhouse. This is Charlie Bolak. Take care.
Here's what people don't tell you about leveling up. If you want to move from this to this, you got to do a whole lot of work in between like this. You got to keep these places up to keep them ready. A lot of people pay for it, but if you want to have your money working for you, it's elbow grease, baby. Are you ready? If you value hard work, enjoy golf, and want to hear about leveling up, moving, parenting, stuff that I have real world experience with, give us a listen at the Clubhouse Podcast. Find us on YouTube or Spotify today. And as always, come and see us at Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
Happy to get the Magnolia room back up and running, but it's no secret that I'm behind on a lot that I got going on, and I didn't need to spend, hopefully, what will be 4 hours or less on replacing a screen. It took me the better part of an entire day to get this one in now. It was mainly because it was too small, and I had already taken the other one down, folded it up, gotten it out of here, so I wanted desperately to be able to make this one
Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
You get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
that was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your customer.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
This is Live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak.
Howdy, swingers. Charlie Bolak here, founder of Swing Away Golf Club and host of the Clubhouse Podcast. There's an old comparison I want to talk about between a horse and a mule. Horse will keep going because you tell it to. It'll keep working as long as it can go. It will carry a load until it absolutely collapses. Mule is different. A mule will work. A mule will carry a load. A mule will cross difficult terrain. It'll climb mountains and put in a full day's work. But when the mule decides the load's too heavy or the trail is too dangerous or it's reached its limit, mule stops. And because it stops, people call it stubborn. They call it difficult. They call it hard-headed. They may even call it lazy. But the mule's work ethic was never the problem. The problem is that the mule has boundaries. The horse gives you unquestioned compliance. The mule gives you sustainable effort. People have grown accustomed to unlimited access to your time, energy, and your labor will often treat your boundaries like a character defect. They don't call the mule lazy because it refuses to work. They call the mule lazy because they can't control how much the mule is willing to work before it says enough is enough. That's what I want to talk about today, boundaries. Because a boundary doesn't mean you're not willing to work. It doesn't mean you're selfish, weak, unreliable, or lazy. Sometimes a boundary is the reason you can keep doing good work. Sometimes a boundary is the reason you can be a better business owner, a better father, a better golfer, a better husband. The mule will do the work, just won't die proving that it can. I'm Charlie Bolak. This is the Clubhouse Podcast, and today we're talking about boundaries. Stick around.
We've really built a world-class golf facility here in Birmingham, Alabama. From the 16-foot wide bays to the real Italian leather bar stools, we designed this place with luxury in mind, and I don't think we missed. So whether you're looking to level up your game, have a fun, relaxing evening, or test yourself in one of our leagues or tournaments, do yourself a favor and take a short drive up Lake Shore to experience it for yourself, because I promise you one thing, Swing Away Golf Club is the place to be. Conveniently located off of Lake Shore Drive at 100 Frankfurt Circle, next to Overtime. We look forward to seeing you soon. Practice, play, win.
All right, welcome back to the Clubhouse Podcast with Charlie Bolak, where we talk about business, dad life, and golf. How the lessons from each tend to bleed into everything else. Today's episode is all about boundaries. The central idea is simple. Your willingness to work doesn't give other people ownership over your effort. You can have an incredible work ethic and still have limits. You can care deeply and still say no. You can be dependable without being endlessly available. In fact, the person with the strongest boundaries may ultimately accomplish more than the person who says yes to everything, because effort without direction eventually becomes waste. In business, we celebrate the horse, the employee who answers every phone call, the manager who responds to emails at midnight, the business owner who responds to every problem personally. We call these people dependable, and at first they probably are. But there's a point where dependability turns into unlimited access. Once people learn you have no boundaries, they begin planning around your lack of boundaries. They stop asking whether something is reasonable because they already know you'll find a way to do it. Their poor planning becomes your emergency. Their lack of preparation becomes your late night, and their refusal to make a decision becomes your burden to carry. And because you've always carried it, they always expect you to, until you don't. Then you've changed. Then you've stopped being the horse they could ride indefinitely. You're learning to become the mule. The mule doesn't say, I don't care. The mule says, I care enough about the quality of my work to decide where my efforts belong. That may mean setting office hours. It may mean refusing to answer non-emergency calls at night. And it may be something as simple as just hiding notifications from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. Blocking off that time for your family. It's recognizing not every opportunity is a great opportunity. It may mean allowing someone else to experience consequences of a problem instead of constantly rescuing them. The mule may be capable of carrying the load, but it doesn't mean every load belongs on its back. There's also a strange tendency in business to confuse visible exhaustion with valuable work. People admire the person sending those emails at midnight. They're less impressed by the person who built the system that eliminated the need for midnight emails. One of my bosses asked about an upcoming safety inspection I had. Said, you haven't been reaching out, you haven't had your normal questions, blah, blah, blah. Basically a mini check-in, right? Are you there? Are you on track? You gonna do well? I had been working on it internally. It was my third one to go through at that point. So I had my ducks in a row, and I didn't need my hand held. I was never much of a person that needed a whole lot of direction, but what I did like was kind of like you would ask the teacher if they could check over your work before you turned it in, that kind of, right? Who doesn't like that from somebody you expect that has the knowledge that's been there before, and you seek that guidance, right? But after a while, you get pretty comfortable in it, and it was just a little check-in. Hey, you going to be good on that? I hadn't heard much about it, and I rocked it out, followed that email up with a nice little snarky comment, and it was just a nice little moment, right? He said, "Hey, are you good?" I said, "Yes, I'm good." He left me alone. I delivered the result. That is where learning to become the mule is, being on the front end of setting those boundaries. Once you know the actual job, once you know what gets the result, you can start to ask what can be eliminated, what deserves my best energy. It's not that the mule's afraid of hard work. The mule simply refuses to confuse unnecessary suffering with commitment. The horse proves its value by carrying every load it's given. The mule proves its value by knowing which load should be carried in the first. People who benefit from your inability to say no will almost always dislike the new version of you that is working on boundaries, and that's just gonna have to be the way it is. It's gonna be a tough time. If you have built part of your life around being that person, when you start setting those boundaries, people start wondering. They come out of the woodwork. Here you're not, blah, blah, blah. Here you were on the golf course at 3:00, blah, blah, blah. Well, hey, if my work's done, good for me, right? I mean, if that was one of my employees, I'd be jealous. Hey, what are you doing to free up that time? Because your number's good. As long as you're doing A, B, C, and D, and you don't have a job where you physically have to be in a place, and hey, good on you, right? I'm proud of you. Give me some lessons. Let me learn a thing or two. All right, that'll put business to bed. Thanks for sticking around. All right, Birmingham, it's your time to tee it up indoors. Qualify August 18th through the 21st for the inaugural Birmingham Indoor Open. Individual stroke play, flexible tee times, and a $500 championship prize. Then gather your crew for the Big Rooster Scramble. Qualify August the 4th through September 4th. The top 3 teams advance, and one leaves swing away as the Big Cock champions. Book now. All right, welcome back to the Clubhouse Podcast. Charlie Bolak here. We're talking about boundaries. Parenthood will take everything you're willing to give it. There's always something else that needs to be done. Another meal, another bath, another mess, another appointment, another bedtime, another problem that can't wait. And because you love your family, it's easy to believe that love means never reaching your limit. A good father should always be available. A good husband should never need time alone. A good parent should never become frustrated. Provider should work as long as necessary, then come home willing to give whatever. What happens when there's nothing left? What happens when work, parenting, responsibilities, and everyone else's needs consume every part of you? I mean, eventually exhaustion turns into irritation. Irritation turns into resentment, and resentment begins leaking out around the people you are exhausting yourself to serve. A healthy boundary may sound like this. I need 30 minutes before we talk about this. I need some sleep. I need time with your mom. I love you, but the answer is still no. Those statements don't mean, you love your family less. They may be what allows you to love your family better. The goal is not to escape the responsibility. The goal is to prevent responsibility from swallowing your entire identity. Your family doesn't need a father who can be ridden until he collapses. They need a father who knows how to stop, recover, and return. We spend a lot of time teaching children to obey, and they need to learn obedience, responsibility, and respect, but they also need to learn that they're allowed to be recognized when something is unsafe, inappropriate, or beyond their limits. We shouldn't raise children who believe being good means giving everyone unrestricted access to them. I mean, hey, ask why. I don't have a problem with that. We teach them to be generous without being easily manipulated, helpful without being used, kind without being defenseless, hardworking without believing their value depends entirely on what they can produce for other people. The mule is not rude simply because it refuses to walk off a cliff, and a child is not disrespectful simply because they learn how to clearly and appropriately say no. The horse keeps giving until there's nothing left. The mule understands that the rest is not separate from the work. The rest is part of what makes tomorrow's work possible. If you can't stop and take some of that off, then the version of you that your family is getting is not the version of you that your family deserves. So take the time for yourself. Find a way to squeeze in golf. That is why Swing Away Golf Club exists, because I found a way to put golf in my basement and play 18 holes in 45 minutes instead of 3 hours. Now we've moved to a house without a basement, so golf is at Swing Away Golf Club. It's still 10 minutes down the road and I can still play in under an hour. That's what we have to do to make these things work. We have to find ways of keeping our identity. If we're workaholics, we still have to, be our own person. If we're parenting multiple children as hard as we can for as long as we can, we still have to have a place to go to have a retreat or relax, a few deep breaths so that we can be the person we want to be. Because I can promise you from personal experience, when you're worn out, when you're overtired, you're frustrated, you are not putting out what your family deserves as a version of yourself. All right, let's take a break. We'll take it to golf and take it home. And remember, if you hear somebody saying they're learning to be a mule, give them a thumbs up.
Great golf brings people together. At Swing Away Golf Club, the experience is built for golfers and everyone who comes with them. Experience North America's only mechanically actuated virtual green with ball tracking by PuttView, paired with Full Swing Pro 2.0 simulators trusted by Tiger Woods and John Ram. Every swing is captured, every shot is real, and every putt reacts exactly like it would on the course. Serious golfers can dial in their game with tour-level feedback and unmatched realism. And for friends and family, Swing Away offers a comfortable, welcoming space with great food, a full-service bar, and fun, interactive experiences that make it easy for anyone to just jump in and enjoy the moment. Play iconic courses from around the world, share the experience together, and enjoy a place where competition, connection, and atmosphere all come together. Swing Away Golf Club. Practice, play, win.
All right, folks, thanks for sticking around. Let's bring it home to golf. And this was really the easiest one. And when I was thinking about my golf game, that's where the whole idea of the boundaries episode came from. The horse just beats the balls. The mule trains. The horse is the golfer who goes to the driving range, buys the largest bucket, and just starts hitting and hitting and hitting. No plan, no target, no defined goal, no real breaks between shots, hits ones badly, immediately pulls, another ball over. So again, rinse, repeat. 200 balls, $100, hours and hours later. He feels like he worked hard, and technically he did. He invested time, he spent money, he burned energy. He may even stay longer than everyone else, but it's not the same as improving more. The horse measures the session by how many balls he hit. The mule arrives with boundaries. He may only have 45 minutes. He may limit himself to 60 balls. He may decide before the session, working on a specific movement, a ball flight, or a scoring problem. He warms up, he chooses a target, goes through his routine, pauses between shots. One thing that really stuck with me, hearing, I think it was Rory, it might have been Scotty Scheffler, talk about playing the first few holes on the range, before they go out on a course. So, driver down to the wedge, where you're going to hit your shot, your first shot, your second shot, into the green, and it is amazing to me the amount of study that would take. I couldn't just go out and visualize hole and my ball. I guess, of course, I've played more than any other in my life is Bentbrook just up the road there. And if you ask me to walk through, you know, the 9 holes of Brook in my head, I could do it, but there's, you know, I'm sure there's details I'd miss. Like number one, if I remember right, is a pretty much straight. Then you have to hit it left to get into a right angle. Or at one point there was a tree. I don't think the tree is there anymore, but there is a lake. And, you know, but for them to be able to week in and week out, put that recording of those couple of holes in there, go out to the range, play those shots. And we don't know. I mean, heck, if I was playing Augusta, I you know, and I knew it was coming up, 6 out of 10 shots that I ever hit would have to have that in my mind, in the back of your head. Are you going to play Augusta? This could be this hole. Now, I don't know that course well enough, but if you did, imagine the effort that it takes to do that. Imagine the brain power, the computing effort, as we were talking about the processing power on the mistakes episode. It's incredible to think about. So when the mule is on the driving range, he may spend part of the session just on wedges, you know, part on approach shots, part on simulated holes like we just talked about. When the quality of the work begins to decline, he stops. He takes a rest. He may call it, say, hey, my brain's just had enough. Or maybe he's going to run to the grill, you know, have a soft drink and a bag of chips, kind of relax, get that, you know, game back in the headspace and reapproach it. You know, to the horse, that looks lazy. The horse may think, well, hell, I hit 250 balls. He only hit 60. The mule didn't go to the range to prove how long he could stay there. You know, he went to the range to work on his golf game. His goal of being there was to become a better golfer, as opposed to just get out there and hit balls. I mean, the horse's goal was to hit balls. The mule's limited time forces him to make decisions. If he only has 45 minutes, he can't waste them, you know, mindlessly hitting the same club. If he has 60 balls, every shot needs a purpose. The boundary creates focus. The boundary forces him to decide what matters. The boundary turns practice from activity into training. You know, that golfer may ultimately become a better golfer while spending less time and money, you know, because he's maximizing these efforts, you know, inside the boundary instead of removing every boundary and wasting effort. The horse beats balls, the mule trains. The horse practices till he's exhausted. The mule practices until the useful work is complete. Golf improvement requires repetition. It requires discomfort. It requires patience and hard work. The mule is not looking for a shortcut that avoids the work. He's looking for the most effective way to do the work. There's a difference between productive repetition and mindless repetition. Once fatigue changes your posture, grip, tempo, decision making, you may no longer be training the swing you intended to build. You may be rehearsing compensations. You may be, I injured my back. It's been about a year ago now. I pulled a muscle or something. I don't know exactly what it was, but it hurt. And it changed my golf swing. And it was right as we were getting in here. So I was hitting a lot of balls. Thankfully, Coach Jerry, one of the early on PGA guys that was hanging around here, recognized it and said, hey, is your back still bothering you? I was like, no. He said, well, then you need to get basically got me back to where I was before then, because I had just been mindlessly tailoring my swing to where it didn't hurt. And instead adding bad habits and wondering why everything's going left. You can teach yourself to swing badly while you're just outbeating balls. You know, it's at that point, hitting more balls actually makes the session worse. It makes you a worse golfer. I mean, walking away is not always quitting. I wish I could learn that if I go to Vegas, but that's a show for a different day. Walking away, there may be the disciplined decision that protects the good work you already completed. The horse also believes improvement happens almost entirely through full swings. The mule understands golf is bigger than the driving range. He practices putting. He works on his wedges. He learns his actual carry distances. He studies course management, practices uncomfortable lies, learns when not to attack a flag. He works on his body, his balance, his mobility, his mental approach. He may play 9 holes with a specific goal rather than hitting. To the mule, it just makes sense. He learns his distances. He studies course management. You know, he practices the uncomfortable lies. and knows when to green light a flag and when not to. He works on body balance, mobility, and even his mental approach. And I'm just getting into that. I had no idea how deep it went. And man, it really neat to learn, but also it's one of those where you learn a little bit and it teaches you how much you don't know and how much you have left to learn. So at 44, I'm pretty behind on the mental game. So that's going to be a big focus of mine moving forward. Back to the horse and the mule, though. The horse may have a prettier range swing, but I'd be willing to guarantee that if the mule doesn't post a better score, the mule is improving more rapidly than the horse. The horse says, look how much effort I gave. The mule, he's not less dedicated. He's more disciplined. It's one or the other, right? You can do it one way, you can do it the other. I'm going to go ahead and tell you I'd give odds on the mule's way being a little bit better than the horse's.
We've really built world-class golf facility here in Birmingham, Alabama. From the 16-foot wide bays to the real Italian leather bar stools, we designed this place with luxury in mind, and I don't think we missed. So whether you're looking to level up your game, have a fun, relaxing evening, or test yourself in one of our leagues or tournaments, do yourself a favor and take a short drive up Lake Shore to experience it for yourself, because I promise you one thing, Swing Away Golf Club is a place to be. Conveniently located off of Lake Shore Drive at 100 Frankfurt Circle, next to Overtime. We look forward to seeing you soon. Practice, play, win.
There is a cost to setting boundaries. Some people won't like it. They may call you selfish. They may call you difficult. They may say you're no longer a team player or accuse you of not caring like you used to. But it's worth asking, are they upset because you're no longer dependable, or are they upset because you're no longer controllable? There are people who genuinely need your help. There are also people who simply prefer the version of you that never made them hear the word no. You have to learn the difference. A person with no boundaries is easy to manage. A person with boundaries requires a relationship. You have to communicate with them. You have to respect them. You have to consider their capacity. You have to ask rather than command and earn their cooperation instead of assuming compliance. That's why the mule gets called difficult. They require the handler to pay attention. At the same time, calling yourself a mule can't become an excuse for avoiding responsibility. A boundary is not an excuse to stop work whenever you want. It's not only doing what you feel like. The mule still carries the load. The mule still works. The mule still crosses difficult terrain. The entire point is that the mule's work ethic is at least as strong as the horse's, and possibly stronger, because its effort can be repeated day after day. A healthy boundary protects responsibility. An excuse avoids it. The difference is whether the boundary helps you fulfill your commitments more effectively, or just merely gives you permission to abandon them. The mule does not refuse every load. It refuses the load that's unsafe, unreasonable, or someone else's responsibility to carry. What is the actual job that needs to be done? Am I producing a result or merely a visible effort? Is this genuinely my responsibility? Is this urgent, or has somebody else simply waited too long? Those are the questions to ask to determine who's the mule. Are you the mule? Am I the mule? Are we the mule? Maybe we're all mules. Why they call me a jackass.
All right, Birmingham, it's your time to tee it up indoors. Qualify August 18th through the 21st for the inaugural Birmingham Indoor Open individual stroke play, flexible tee times, and a $500 championship prize. Then gather your crew for the Big Rooster Scramble. Qualify August the 4th through September 4th. The top 3 teams advance, and one leaves Swing Away as the Big Cock champions. Book now.
There's nothing wrong with being hardworking. There's nothing wrong with being dependable. In fact, it's expected. There's nothing wrong with carrying a heavy load when the situation calls for it. But your willingness to work doesn't mean the world's entitled to every ounce of it. You don't have to answer every call. You don't have to accept every opportunity, solve every problem, or hit every ball in the bucket. The horse will keep moving as long as somebody's applying pressure. The mule decides whether the next step's worth taking. It doesn't make the mule lazy. It makes the mule aware. It knows the load. It knows the terrain. It knows its own limits. And because it knows when to stop, it may ultimately travel farther than the animal that never learned how. In business, boundaries help us direct our effort towards work that actually matters. In parenting, boundaries allow us to give our families love without allowing exhaustion turn into resentment, or at least exhaustion turn us into a grouch that nobody wants to be around, right? You may not resent anybody. You may just be so tired you can't be pleasant to be around. Golf, boundaries turn into endless repetition, into intentional training. A horse beats balls until the bucket's just gone, empty. The mule stops when the work is complete. The horse proves how much it can endure. The mule just wants to focus on what it can accomplish. Maybe the goal is not to become less hardworking. Maybe the goal is to become more deliberate, more intentional, work hard, carry the load, show up for your people, and do the difficult things, but know what belongs on your back. Know when the work has stopped being productive. Know when is enough. People may call you stubborn. They may call you difficult. They'll probably even call you lazy. Let them. The mule will do the work. It just won't die proving that it can. I'm Charlie Bolak. This has been the Clubhouse. Thanks for sticking around. We'll see you next time. And remember, being a jackass isn't always a bad thing. See you next time.
Something that's not talked about enough in the industry is
You get burned out.
You're a pretty screwed up individual that is unbelievably buttoned up and put together.
that was something that happened to me.
We are all human beings.
I actually have a chance now to understand how to be a better parent.
You don't have to talk to a person to get your whole job site off the ground and going.
My daughter, she can sniff out the AI instantly.
They're not your country.
I told Anna, I was like, we're going to see real quick who runs a good restaurant.
Doesn't matter if it's golf or cooking, you will get results when you love what you do.
This is Live on the Clubhouse with Charlie Bolak.